Hey guys, welcome to Saturday. It is such a good Saturday today. Today we are talking about stop motion animation. In particular, I've got some attention and questions about a stop motion sequence that I put together for my daily vlogs. And so let's take a look at that sequence right now. In a world where daily vlogging has become more of a normal thing to do, even though it's hard, and I don't like doing things that are hard to do, like exercise. Anyway, back in my office, one vlogging rig keeps setting itself up. Welcome to Vlogtober. People were like freaking out, man. They were like, "Oh my gosh, Phillip, how did you do it? I need to know." And I was like, wait, guys, it's fine. Just hold on, just one at a time. Matt. Yeah, Phillip, I was just wondering, could you make a tutorial on how you made that stop motion for us? Good question, Matt. Yes, that's what we're doing today. So I didn't have any good behind the scenes footage on that sequence. I did have a camera rolling, but the footage is terrible. But I did have enough time to shoot a new sequence for you guys. So I figured I would just use the same camera, the same lens, the same settings, the same light and everything, and just shoot a new story and show you how I did that. So guys, for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you behind the scenes kind of time lapse of shooting this sequence. I'll tell you about my camera settings, and I'll tell you about a couple of things that I think you should consider when you are planning on shooting a stop motion animation. Yeah, that's it. Let's go to the new sequence. I hope you enjoy it. And transition to the next scene right now. Okay, so the other day I was thinking about how much time I waste making food. Like, it takes no time to eat it takes forever to cook it. Like, for example, wouldn't it be cool if a grilled cheese sandwich could just make itself? The cheese kind of meets up with a knife and takes a little bit off the side, and then in the background, the bread just kind of unrolls itself and slides on out of the bag like a boss. And the cheese is like, "Man, you ain't bread. You a bed. Hey, come on up here, guys. It's nice." And then the butter sloshes out of the background and kind of coats the bread like a Zamboni on the ice rink. Okay, maybe that's gross, but think of all the time you'd save. Okay, so this was super fun to create, just like the first one. Here are the tips that I have for you. Two things mainly. The first thing is you want to be in control of your environment. So I recommend the lighting being artificial. That way you're not dependent on the clouds or the sun, the light outside changes all the time, so you don't want to depend on that. You want your lighting to be consistent throughout each shot. So you want to be in full control of your camera settings, your shutter, aperture, ISO, as well as your white balance. So go into Kelvin or manual white balance, whatever that is for your particular camera, and set up an artificial light that gets you the look that you desire for this shot. The second thing I recommend considering is the stabilization of your shot. Make sure that you are on a tripod or a sliding rig and you're locked down really well. You've planned out your movement. If you're going to be moving the camera, then you're super advanced. Now, I don't even know why you're watching this tutorial right now, but stick around just in case, I guess. But also, watch out for the tripod. You don't want to be bumping into your camera accidentally. And this is a big deal, at least for me as an amateur stop motion artist or whatever. I'm going to be pretty close to my camera while I'm moving the objects around. And when you move the camera, it can really mess up the whole shot if it wasn't planned to move and it doesn't make sense in the story. Okay, the third... Did I tell you I was going to do 2 things or 3 things? I'm going to do 3 things. There's 3 things of advice that I've got you for you. The third piece of advice that I have for you is to plan out your shot as best you can. If you can get to the set ahead of time and try out moving the objects the way that you want to move them, to make sure that you're not going to come up against any kind of weird obstacles or need to hide any kind of rigging for an object to hold it up or make it look like it's flying or something like that. This is key, and I think that especially in stop animation, it will save you a lot of time during the actual production. Okay, the fourth piece of advice, did I say I was going to do 2 or 3 or 4? I'm just going to give you 4 pieces of advice. Okay, the fourth and final piece of advice is to consider sound. Lately, with these last 2 animations, obviously I just voiced over or narrated a story. Slides on out of the bag like a boss, and the cheese is like, "Man, you ain't bread. You a bed. Hey, come on up here, guys. It's nice." and then the butter sloshes out of the background and kind of coats the bread like a Zamboni on the ice rink. Okay, maybe that's gross, but think of all the time you'd save. And that's totally fine, and it was super fun, and I enjoy doing that. I really like using my voice to come up with sound effects and use and create different characters. I totally think you should try it out. It's super fun. Like, for example, this last animation with the grilled cheese sandwich, it might have been better if I had made time to go back and record sounds of like the bread bag actually crumbling and opening, or like the cheese block hitting the cutting board, or like getting some really close gooey sounds of the knife cutting through the cheese. One thing I can tell you is I've never regretted making time to get good audio to back up my video. So in this animation, I decided to make my shutter speed a 50th of a second. I shot at f8. I was so close to my subject in this case with my camera that I needed to get a thicker depth of field, so I had to stop down a bit. And I just went ahead and bumped up my ISO to about 320. And then I set the white balance to 5000 Kelvin. The file size and quality were large JPEGs in just fine high quality. Obviously, you'll get more data, more information from raw files, and if you have enough space on your hard drive and your computer's like fast enough and big enough or whatnot, or if it's like a giant stop animation film, I recommend shooting in a higher quality image format than JPEGs. But for this tutorial, this was good enough for me. Guys, the last thing I'll tell you about my settings relates to timing and movement, right? So I kind of like that choppy vibe to stop motion. It's a characteristic of this technique that I really appreciate. And so for me, I was looking for something like a 12 frames per second vibe. And what I did was end up moving my objects about a 1/4 inch of movement in between each photograph. If you want a smoother motion, then you want more frames per second. But realize that's going to take you more time to shoot. This particular stop motion with the grilled cheese sandwich took me just over an hour to shoot. Granted, I feel like I could have planned it much better than I did. Guys, thanks so much for watching. You guys are incredible. I can't say enough about the support on the No Small Creator group. If you haven't checked it out already, I'm going to put the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm going to keep making these kind of tutorials every Saturday until you know everything.